People wonder, when you have the story of Korach in the Torah, what exactly was going on? What was the motive of a man like Korach in terms of fighting against Moses? So the first thing you have to understand is that Korach laid down a principle. Principle number one is that the laws of the Torah have to make sense. They have to be logical. Principle number two, they have to be fair. And his argument was a very well thought out argument. Even though the rabbis use certain expressions that seem to make Korach look ridiculous, the rabbis were pointing out that Korach had a logic behind him, and that people accepted his logic as opposed to the positions of Moshe Rabbeinu, as Moses. So what was his argument? After all, the people of Israel had sinned with the golden calf, and God had almost destroyed the people, if not for the prayers of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses. And as a result of that, there was a change in the structure of Klal Yisrael, that at first, the firstborn would offer the sacrifices, and then, after the sin of the Egel, the golden calf, Aaron was sanctified, and only Aaron's children in the future would be the high priests. But this came in front of the people as a result of the sin. They saw the divine wrath, and Moses was at the center, the epicenter of protecting the Jewish people. So how could Korach get support? How could he even think that he had a basis? So Torah gives us a hint. Korach took Nisi Edo, the princes of the people, Anshe Shem, men of renown. These weren't ordinary people. These were members of the high court. These were members of the council of leaders of the sages of Israel. How could they have argued at Moses? The answer is, the Torah has to make sense, and God has to be fair. These high court members more than likely were firstborn. They were Pchorim, just as I am a Pchor. And the Pchorim were called the Kohanim, they were called the priests. So they had been Kohanim before. And if you say that the reason why they were disenfranchised is because of the sin of the golden calf, they did not sin the sin of the golden calf. And furthermore, you might argue that they were compliant in the sin because they didn't protest. They had proof that God had forgiven them. What was the proof? Because many of them sat on the high court on the Sanhedrin. And in order to sit on the Sanhedrin, the Skenim, the elders of Moses' 70 chosen men of the Bezdin, the high court, they all had to have attained prophecy. In order to attain prophecy, for sure you have to have reached the level of forgiveness that God forgives you. So number one, they didn't sin. And they were firstborn. They had been priests before. How could they become disenfranchised? And if you're saying because there was a smithering of an association of sin, they had been forgiven. They became prophets of God. How could Moses deny them what they had had before? They were priests before. And furthermore, the rabbis tell us in the Mechilta that the firstborn, not only will the Levites in the future become Kohanim, priests, but the firstborn will also be restored. So says the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. And if that's the case, so just listen. They had been priests before. They will be priests in the future. And in the interim, they hadn't sinned. So why should they be disenfranchised? Why couldn't they just serve together with Aaron as an adjunct? It didn't make any sense. And you know what? The people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. So what did God show to negate this argument? They had been priests before. Why could they not be priests now? And the answer that's given in Chassidus is that the priests are like almonds. Almond Kohen, or almond joy. What is the almond joy of the Kohen? The almond rushes to be completed before any of the other fruits. It produces flowers, buds, and fruit in record time. And this shows a certain natural quickness and tendency of quickness, a decision-making process, a commitment, an alacrity that's missing by other members of Bnei Yisrael. I'm sure that there are people who have as much alacrity as the Kohanim. But the alacrity of the Kohanim is by nature. It's not an aberration. The Kohen is like the almond. The Kohen, his decision is clear and quick and makes the right decision without any hesitation. Because the Kohen is clear thinking, has a clear heart, and a clear soul, and a clear mind. And because of that, he's able to do things thoroughly, with understanding and compassion, and quick. And that's the reason why the miracle of Hanukkah takes place through the Kohanim, through the priests, through Matisyahu, an old man. He makes his decision instantaneously and led the people of Israel to victory. This is a nature of a Kohen that cannot be learned, can't be taught. There's a gene that has been discovered that is only found by male descendants of Aaron. And so this has become part of their nature. There's a spiritual and physical nature that distinguishes the Kohen from everyone else. And until the people of Israel will all be elevated above sin, we have to have a priest whose reactions are clear and quick and thorough. And no one else can be the priest until the Mashiach comes. And so I wish you clarity. I wish you cleanliness of the heart and of your intent and of your integrity. And I wish you the ability to make decisions quickly, not rashly, because it's coming from a purity of heart and soul and mind, just as Aaron the high priest. Good Shabbos.